Good morning, everyone. Brian here with BMK Retro Gaming. This morning I have a review for you guys of the ColecoVision Homebrew game, Girl's Garden. Now, it was originally developed in 1984 by Sega for their third generation Sega SG-1000 home video game console. And as a matter of fact, one of the principal developers, Yuji Naka, I think I pronounced that right, would later go on. He was asked to do it as one of his first early projects, which would appeal to girls after joining Sega. And later on, he would go on to work on much more famous titles like Sonic the Hedgehog. Anyway, as sometimes has happened with ColecoVision homebrew games, there have been a number that have been ported over from, like, say, the MSX computer, and even the Sega SG-1000 itself. Well, the Sega SG-1000 uses the same chipset, although it's considered a third generation, whereas I would consider a lot of decent reasons that are valid. The ColecoVision ended up being classified as second generation. There are justifiable reasons for this, such as its approximate release, the fact it competed against solely other second-generation home video game consoles like the Atari 5200 and, to a somewhat lesser degree, the Intellivision home video game console line, and not against any third-generation home video game consoles. Let's see, there's the controller type, which is... with that, I'm not talking about the joystick. I'm talking about the fact it still has, on the original controllers, a full numeric keypad. You don't find that outside of the second generation, except for perhaps the fifth generation Atari Jaguars controllers. And although the chipsets caused a lot of inspiration in the third generation, and were even used by, like I said, the Sega SG-1000, is considered third generation despite using the exact same chipset. And, there are also some things that, the third generation home video game consoles do, and do pretty well, that the ColecoVision either doesn't do well or can't do. I forget all the exact details, but there are things like, some types of progressive scan lines that third generation home video game consoles use, and certain types of screen scrolling that they can do, which it just doesn't. So there are reasons, but then there are things like this and ports from the MSX computer, which kind of do push the argument more that it maybe should have been reclassified as third generation. Well, hey, don't look at me. I didn't come up with a classification system. Video game historians, industry experts, etc. came up with that, and like I said, I think they've got decent justification for it, but it's definitely one of those home video game consoles which kind of straddled the line. It was at the far end and of the second generation, and on the verge of being third generation, and kind of was transitional. It kind of straddles that line right between the two of them. Just a little bit more, and it, could have ended up being third generation. But it is what it is, and I don't argue with, how it got classified. Like I said, I didn't come up with a classification system. I just follow it and accept it as what's considered conventional wisdom about it for now. Though, yes, like I said, ports like this do, even done homebrew, kind of do make an argument as to it could have well ended up being third generation, and you almost could include it if not for the factors that they say don't count, or don't, put more second generation. So, anyway, I don't want to get into that argument with anybody. Though I was talking with one of my subscribers about that in comments, and it made me think, yeah, this would be a good video to say, yeah, I'm not trying to argue with anyone about it, just, the second generation, third generation debate for the ColecoVision has been a thing for some, and I'm not the one who's going to say you guys are right or wrong. Just going to point out that there are reasons why it's classified as it is. Although there are reasons to see where that classification may well be questionable. Anyway, Girls Garden was posted over. I ported over as a console port to the ColecoVision in 2010 by Bruce Tomlin. And to be honest with you guys, when I was reading about third generation home video game consoles and the Sega SG-1000, one of the games cited in the article was Girls Garden, and I'm like, well, it may be a game for girls, but it does look a bit interesting. I wonder what it'd be like to play it. So I looked up some gameplay videos and all and everything, and to be honest with you, the ColecoVision Homebrew port of it as a Homebrew console port seems to look, sound, and play pretty much identical to the original Sega SG-1000 game. So it's I'm actually kind of happy that I got to play something that, you know, it may not be on the Sega SG-1000, but this is probably as close as you're going to get otherwise. So that was nice for me. Anyway, I don't want to talk you guys' heads off about all this the entire morning. I've got it to emulate via Game ROM on my ColecoVision Phoenix, so I'm going to get that set up and we're going to take a look into the gameplay. Okay, here we go. ColecoVision Core. Go to Homebrew. Here we go. Okay, so the controls are pretty simple. Your side fire buttons will allow you to drop some honey to keep bears from hassling you for a bit. And you otherwise just use your joystick to move. The whole deal here is the girl in pink and white is named Capri. And she's got the hots for this boy named Minto, who just happens to love flowers. So she goes about collecting enough flowers to attempt to earn his affections. Dropping the honey will take the bears from being a threat to making them temporarily harmless. The bees will drop things, everything from poison occasionally to sometimes more useful things like dadgum. Didn't mean to do that. The hearts represent your lives. Anyway, I'm going to restart that. The bees will also drop occasionally helpful items such as a spare heart for you in the form of a heart, basically, or sometimes items which will cause you to gather a ton more flowers at one time. Stuff like that. There's two. Anyway, Capri has a rival on here named Coco, who is the girl that you guys might be seeing. I'm not going to play that crap with you this morning. Coco is the girl up at the top right of the screen in the pinkish red and white, who, as it turns out, is Papri's rival, who is also after Minto's affections, and she serves as a type of timer. If Minto reaches her before Papri does with the flowers for Minto, well, she's out of luck. You can get more honey as each level you pass successfully provides more honey. Well, one more honey pot to give the bears. You can also just try to avoid them, though that's not always so easy to do. Once they turn blue, they kind of home in on you, and they're going to be coming after you. And yes, bear is dangerous, so... Stupid bear, out of my way. Once in the morning, try to do this. Extra points, 1,500 I think it just gave me. Go away, bear. You're not catching me today. As you guys saw, you can also drown by falling in the water. 3 more flowers and we're through level 1. If you get a dead flower, which is going black, it will take away from your total count, so try not to do that one. This game was a bit controversial at the time, in a way, because it kind of reflects the idea of, well, Papri's kind of a pretty, how do you say, aggressive girl in terms of she's pursuing Minto, her boy, where that wasn't the most common thing in the 80s and all, well, maybe a little more so than not. And it made the game have a little bit of controversy on the Sega SG-1000 port. Well, it wasn't a port then, it was just an original library game then. But by the time this was released in 2010, who cared? So yeah, it was kind of criticized for the fact that she's trying to win a boy's affections. But so much, still makes it into a fun, sweet, interesting little game, regardless of it being a kind of controversial subject matter for a game. This game was actually considered one of the better looking and playing ones on the Sega SG-1000, as a matter of fact. Despite the fact that it had also had ports of many other more popular and notable arcade ports and such, but well, overall the Sega SG-1000 original library wasn't considered much of anything to write home about. Most reviewers regard the games as somewhat forgettable. Really, the Sega SG-1000 had the capabilities and all as a third-generation home video game console that you well could, you know, it was about on the level of its rivals like the Nintendo NES and all, except kind of like the ColecoVision, there were certain types of progressive scan and screen scrolling and such that it just was not good at doing or couldn't do anyway, so it had its shortcomings. Also, the Sega SG-1000 was only technically released in Japan, so what were you gonna do? It did receive some unofficial releases that weren't done by Sega to like Australia and even here in North America, as well as some in Europe, but they just didn't decide to take their chances releasing it to the other video game markets in the world in those days, and that probably did hurt the chances it had of getting somewhere. If I'd been over at Sega in those days and it had come out, I'd been like, well, hey, maybe it might perform better in some of the other markets than it's not doing in the Japanese market, so why not go ahead and release it to those markets and find out? We have to take a loss, we just do. No big deal. So I think Sega made a bit of a mistake with that. Anyway, getting it for a ColecoVision Homebrew console port isn't too bad. This is the challenging stage where you have to try to jump the bears as they come at you. And you get extra points for each one. Of course, I never can get past the 2 bears. Fortunately, it doesn't cost you any lives for that. Anyway, it's a very simple game, as you guys can probably tell by now. So I wouldn't really call it a bad game. Simple gameplay, you can get into it real easy without too much of a hassle over it. Damn you, bear. Oy. Oh. Apparently my emulation kind of screwed up there. Let me... Yeah, it just got stuck. Happens where we'll get hung up on occasion. Anyway, I think you guys got enough of an idea with the gameplay from that. Okay, so that was Girls Garden, a 2010 homebrew console port for the ColecoVision. As I was kind of saying, it was considered pretty good on the Sega SG-1000, and it still looks and plays pretty good on the ColecoVision. And I'd recommend if you guys get a chance to check it out, do so. Sure, it's a girly game, but not a bad one. My preferred YouTuber, 65 Gamer Guy, also has a nice video featuring this particular game, so I will leave a link to that for you guys. And there's also a Wikipedia article, so I will leave a link to that one too. You guys take care, have a good morning. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself again. If you enjoy my channel's content, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't hesitate to leave any questions, comments, or suggestions in the comments section below. You guys take care, have a good morning, and I will see you again in my next video.